Hello, this is a Yamaha G2 grand piano that's 170 centimeters long, made in 1975, and it's come into stock. We're assessing it to see what work we need to do. It's a part exchange for a Steinway grand that we've just sold. Now, first of all, if we look down and at the pedals there, we've already shined these up, by the way, and there's two of them. So the middle one on a modern piano very often has a middle pedal, which is a sostenuto. Next to this piano we have a Bösendorfer, which we're working on, and the sostenuto lifts the key when you lift the key up. So when you press the key down, I mean, and say those two notes go up, then if you press the middle pedal, which is sostenuto, it holds them up, so you can play the other keys, and these two will sound all the time, and these two will dampen off. Shown that in other videos, but as we had the piano alongside, I thought I'd show it on this one. So you just release them, sostenuto there, and normally all the dampers go up and down. If you press those, press the sostenuto middle pedal, it holds those up, and then when you release it, they go down again. Now, most older pianos don't have sostenutos, and musicians don't generally find they use them at all, or very little. I noticed in playing the piano that there's quite a variety of weights as you press the keys down. You can see it's been used a lot. You can see from the sides of the sharps, that's a clear indication of a lot of use. But if we play these two, push the pedal down and play them, then it's much harder to play the B than it is the C. So if we put the weights on, we can see the difference here. This is 49 grams, which is about correct. If I tap the bottom, you'll see it going down. That's underneath. I've got the pedal down at the same time, and let's put the same weight on the C and go straight down. Let's try the A. That's about the same as the B, and the G about the same. Let's try C sharp. That's going down very fast on C sharp too. So there's a variety of weight, and you can feel that. And if you're a pianist, and this was owned by a practicing pianist and a performer as well, so obviously you can't play as subtly as you want to. That's very difficult to do. So let's have a look at what's happening there. Sorry, those were our workshop weights. I did want to show you what you can do at home is to put 5 modern £1 coins on top of each other. That's 8.75 grams each, and this is 5 grams, a 20p piece, and that's just under, literally 0.25 under the other weights, so should give a similar reading. So that's going down nicely, and let's put it on the B. Well, that's very, sorry, both of those, I beg your pardon, both of those are quite heavy, just about right, should we say, and then this one goes straight down, and that one's too light as well, and so on. So you can use coins. That's 5 1p and the 20p, roughly the same, and that's about the right weight for pianos. They vary slightly, but that's about right. So let's have a look inside. Thought it's worth showing you getting the fall off. This is the bit that covers the keys. Tip it halfway and just lift it. That should come off nicely, and then just can put that in a safe place, and then we will get the cheeks off. Now you have to unscrew the screws here. There we are, and lift the cheek out. Let's put that down in a safe place too. And then the left-hand cheek. You might need to use the unicorda pedal to help you have enough space to get this out. Sorry, I didn't unscrew the screw. It's half unscrewed already, actually. So there we are. That's a wing nut there, and we put that on the floor as well, carefully. And then you can take the front rail off. So most pianos, not all pianos are like that, but most pianos come apart in that way. Steinway has its own unique way of coming apart, but most other pianos are like that. And then we can pull the action out. And let's see what's going on here. So it's unusual for a piano that's used all the time to have this problem, but I discovered earlier that if we lift the hammers up to almost right angles and let them drop, some of them don't drop. Now that's a good test to use. By the way, if you take the action out yourself, I don't recommend it unless you're a technician, but if you haven't got any technicians for miles around, don't put your hands on the keys when you're lifting the action out. Have a look at the hammers to make sure they're all down. So otherwise you can break the hammers off. So you can see they're all dropping back at different times. Now let's have a look at that. So the one on the left here that is the B. So let's have a look and see what the problem is. Now if I take this hammer off, and by the way, when you take them off, look carefully where they were, because you must put them on in exactly the same place, otherwise a different part of the hammer can hit the string and they won't sound the same tone. So let's have a look. Now this should swing 7 times, so let's watch it, and it doesn't swing at all. We'll compare that with the one that does swing. Let's have a look at C now, because that was swinging very freely. So lifting C off. Now you might, let's get this done first and I'll make a comment, which I should have done earlier. So let's swing the C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's too free. The hinge drop sets. That should, when I let it go, should just about go downwards. With the screw, should just about go downwards. Without the screw too, it's not going down at all at the moment. So, sorry, it's going down too freely. I beg your pardon. Now, again, let's put this back in exactly the same place as we had it before. So that, if you remember, was too light really, because the right weight was about 49 grams. That's the weight we like. Sometimes it's up to about 52. Between 47 and 52 would be ideal. Press it now. Now when it's this gummed up and when it's this tight, it's unlikely that you'll be able to get it freed off with lubricant. And by the way, if you haven't got any lubricant, in fact a very good way of doing it is just to work it backwards and forwards like this, and eventually it will get freed up. If you work it slightly sideways as well, then it'll free itself off. Whether this will free itself off, may have to change the pin in here, which is obviously something we regularly do. This has got freed off a little bit just with moving it. So let's try lubricating it anyway. So just put a bit of lubricant on both sides. If you put too much on, technical department says it tends to swell the wood. So that would be hopefully adequate. Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That 5 is acceptable, and as you use it, it should go to 7. I'm not quite sure why it was so gummed up. We did have a seller Yamaha C6 to a client in a house called the Old Mill, and it turned out that there was a stream underneath where the piano was, and within a month I was called to say all the notes were sticking. So that obviously was caused by damp, and they've got a permanent humidifier now. So we did lubricate, and that's been fine ever since, but you may need to change the centre pin. I'm quite hopeful that that's going to be all right actually, so that's swinging quite nicely. The mystery as to why it was so gummed up in the first place. Actually, I just wanted to say that, yes, the roller is also quite worn. Now, you might not think that affects it, but it does feel more notchy than it would with a brand new one. Just made a video recently where we've replaced the rollers on a broadwood, and it does feel much smoother. So it's starting to feel notchy with that. Now, obviously, we can recondition the piano and sell it. It depends how much work we do on it as to how much it sells for. Now the case actually has got all the scratches too, so you have to decide what to do with that. So if you're interested in this piano, and I can recommend it, we'll hear in a minute that it does have a very good tone, then let us know and we can decide how much work you'd like us to do. Because once we've freed these off, I think it's going to be nice and even now. We'll just check it and see how even it is, and see if we've done the job properly. So there's the B, and it's going down with, say, just under 49 grams, and the C is going easily down. Let's take the 5 grams off and see what happens. Sorry. 43.75 grams still going down. So now we have 40 grams, and it's going down easily. So it's 40 grams, maybe slightly less, and that's really too light. If you're a professional player, it's too light really. So we did see that one swung too many times, but there's another reason why they're light as well. The other reason they're light is they have been refaced. In other words, the hammers have been sanded over reasonably well done, because when you reface, you've got to come to a point, it mustn't be too flat. But I'm going to mark the hammers just to see, just to look at them more carefully, because the hammers are so important really. How refacing, you can see, has been better done on some than others, but generally it's been well done. So a can't criticise that, it's been nicely done, but it does mean you've lightened the hammer off, because taking some felt off does lighten the hammer. You might think that felt's not that heavy, but if you take enough of it off, it does make a difference. So in marking the hammers, we use carbon paper, and I've shown this on some recent videos. Turn it upside down, play the hammers, and then it'll mark them. I've done these earlier actually. We'll look at them and see if we can find out something about the hammers. So you push it right in, and the paper tends to travel up if you do it. You don't have to put it in again. So we've marked the middle earlier on. I'm just going to do the base section now, and see if we can get the paper to travel as well. Not so important to mark the bottom ones. You might have noticed that some strings are lighter colour. That's because I've twisted them to see if the tone could be improved. That was slightly out of tune. Let's just tune it. Roughly tuned. That one certainly is deader than... So it's another test to see if we can improve the bass, and it certainly has improved the tone. You may not be able to hear it on the video very well, but that certainly is better now it's twisted. That tightens the winding on the string, and you can also get rid of... That's got a slight sort of buzzy sound too. Twisting the string should get rid of that. Now this piano has been played quite a bit since it was refaced, but if you've just refaced the piano, then if you notice that some lines are thicker than others, then it might be your refacing's a bit at an angle. This one here, I'm wondering whether that's just the way we marked it, or whether in fact the hammer isn't quite straight. And it'll make a huge difference to the tone. It's surprising how much difference that'll make if you just level it off. So this one's hitting earlier than that, we think. So if you've just refaced it, then that's a wonderful way, we've found anyway, of finding out whether your refacing's accurate or not. And this one looks different too. So listen to the tone of those hammers. I won't do that now because I think the video's already gone on too long. Sorry if you've got bored, but hopefully that's been somewhat helpful. If you do take the action out again, I recommend really getting a technician to do it. By the way, you might have seen this white powder. That maybe that is talc, which we put on ourselves. I should imagine it could be, but I don't quite know why it's got everywhere. So that's a slight mystery, but normally you put talc, and you need to put the talc on the middle rail too, which we'll probably take the keys off and do, just to see if we can free it off a bit. But we said that in a way the weighting is going to be slightly lighter than it would normally be if you're a pianist and want to practice heavily. But having said that, if you are an occasional player, a slightly lighter action might be favourable for you. So that's because it's been refaced, slightly lighter, and some of the hinges, as I say, some of the hinges, like this C here, was a little bit too free, so that was making it lighter as well. So that's an assessment of a Yamaha G2 made in 1975, coming in part exchange for a Steinway, and I was hoping to show you some of the things that we do to test the piano ourselves, although we may not always test the weight if it feels right, but then we'll do refinement of usually regulation, which I haven't shown you on this video, but there are plenty of other videos talking about regulation. But this one particularly wanted to show how uneven the touch was, and still it needs evening up. A bit of regulation he's doing too. Really, the work doesn't end, and we want to do obviously the most important work first. But the piano, having said all that, does have a beautiful tone, as Yamahas of this age do. But the hammers need evening up. The weight needs evening up. The voicing needs evening up. bass strings I think will twist them all because there's some noises on them. Yamahas can be noisy on the bass strings. Replacing all the bass strings would help, but then you want to possibly replace the trebles as well. So I would say twisting them is going to get them to about 85–90% of their original tone. But it's a piano that I like playing, and I'm sure once it's been worked on, it's going to be very enjoyable to play indeed. Thank you very much for listening.